Hi BookTube, welcome, welcome. This is the video that I've been looking forward to making for the last year. According to my schedule, this video is going to air on the 17th of October, and when it does, I will be exactly 2 weeks from finishing my year-long Read What You Own challenge. I'm so excited. Now I need to ask the indulgence of BookTube. Immediately after this challenge ends, I would like you to allow me, if it's okay, just a 1 week break. 1 week, just the first week of November. I might post 1 or 2 short videos during that time, but the proper bookish stuff that you've got used to seeing here on Heather Reads, that's going to start appearing again in the second week of November. So now is the time to review what's been achieved in this past year and talk about how is that going to feed into my reading plans for the future. Right, first let's do a recap of all the goals that I set myself on the 31st of October last year. The most important one, of course, was that I was to read 53 books that I own, and that 53 could include library books, or if I was given a book as a gift by someone during that 12-month period, I could include that as well. And we're doing really well. At this very moment, I have read 51 of the 53 books, and I'm more than halfway through 52. That's the Tolstoy biography by Rosamund Bartlett, if you've been watching the vlogs on that. Book 53 is a 208-page novel, and I feel confident, given how I have managed with the challenge so far, confident that I'm going to reach my target. Point 2, and sorry for having gone shrinking up into a corner here, but I need room for this table. The next thing that I required myself to do was to read at least 12 books from a TBR list that I specified. And these are the titles and the authors that you can see listed here. And I did read 12 books on my TBR list, but I got to qualify it because, as you can see, if you go down and look at the bottom of that list, there is a title crossed out. Originally, on the original list of 12 books, I had Italo Calvino's essays, the collection titled Why Read the Classics, and that was going to be on this TBR list. And okay, I read the first essay without a problem, and then I got to the second essay, which was a discussion of Homer. And the last time I read English translations of Homer, I was in high school, and I really felt that I needed to reread Homer first and then see what Calvino had to say. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get anything valuable from that essay. And I no longer own the translations of the Iliad or the Odyssey that I had way back then. And I had enough to do with the challenge as it stood. I really didn't want to go buying new copies of Homer using my wildcard options. We'll talk about those later. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to postpone Calvino. And so what I did was I removed his book from the TBR list and I substituted a book that was long listed for the TBR, but it didn't make the final cut, and that was Steve Silberman's nonfiction work about autism called Neurotribes, which I finished and I reviewed in January. So if you count the revised list, and I do, then I completed my full TBR list. And of course, during the year, I allowed myself the purchase of 4 there. See, I had the same trouble when I did the video last year, getting my fingers positioned on screen. 4 wildcard books that I could purchase, because you can't just restrict yourself completely, and those could have been paper books or ebooks. Now I've stayed within that target to date. Okay, I'm going to list the 4 books that I purchased during the challenge. 3 of them you'll know about if you watch my content or content that I made in collaboration with other booktubers. 1 of them I've not talked about, so we'll leave that till last for a bit of a surprise. But these are the books that I purchased. Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman, purchased that in January and reviewed it. The Skeleton's Holiday by Leonora Carrington, purchased that in March so that I could get together with David from Polyglot Reader and we could analyze Carrington's story White Rabbits. And finally, As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. I bought the Norton Critical Edition in paperback, and that's so I could join in with the Faulkner in August reading event. And the final book is Makuneima by Mario de Andrade. I bought this in May from Foyles. I bought the paperback copy. This is a new translation from the Portuguese of a classic work of Brazilian literature from 1928. And by the way, I love these plain blue cover Fitzcarraldo Classics editions. So don't be surprised that as soon as I can buy books, I buy more of these. Okay, so what's going to happen next on Heather Reads? Well, we're going to talk about the period from 1st of November this year until 31st of December 2025. Yeah, I'm kind of resyncing things. I want to get in line with the calendar year if possible. So we're going to talk about the next 14 months. All my goals will be over that time period. I'm going to change my focus. This is the most important thing. I'm going to change my focus from reading a certain number of books in a time period to reading a certain number of pages instead. I can't do that 100%. Oh, why not? Because back in the summer, what did I do? I set myself another TBR list, didn't I? The winning titles TBR list. Okay, there were 18 books on that list. I've read 4. So, over the next 14 months, I have 14 books to read. Hang on, easy math, the only kind of math I really like. So it means I need to read at least one of those books every month. That's not too difficult, I don't think. But apart from that, we're going to break away completely from this focus that I see across BookTube, really, which is the focus on reading a certain number of books in a time period. And I found the problem with that is that it leads me to lean towards reading shorter books. And okay, short books are great. Some short books are really great and they need to be the length they are. But some books need to be longer. In particular, nonfiction. But there are many works of fiction that are longer and I want to tackle them. And I don't want my reading goals to effectively work against that. Okay, here we go. To set realistic goals for the next 14 months, I'm going to use my statistical achievements as benchmarks. In the 12 months, from 1st of November 2023 to end of October, I read 15,167 pages, and I did that comfortably. To fit in with my other life priorities, didn't need to do anything different. So I'm going to up that a little bit because my forward planning covers 14 months. So if I take 15,167, divide it by 12, that comes to 1,267 pages per month. Multiply that by 14, and I get 17,694 pages. Well, I like round numbers, so I'm going to take that goal up to 18,000 pages for the 14 months. Now, within that 18,000 pages, I've got some targets I'd really like to meet. I want at least 3,000 pages to be books borrowed from the library. I want that to be part of my ongoing aim to support libraries. I also want at least 3,000 pages to be books selected from a Read What I Own list of big books. Okay, this isn't a TBR list. I don't have to get through all of these, but I should select from these. These are books that are over 400 pages long. I own them and I wanted to read them, but I think I avoided them during this last year because, to reach my number of books target, I really couldn't tackle longer books, and that's what made me unhappy. So you can see the list here. Just to clarify, I don't need to read all these books over the 14-month period, but I do need to read enough of them to reach my 3,000 page target. So what about the buying of new books? This is really important. I've thought about it for a long time. I really want to get the balance right between letting myself buy books, because heck, I've spent a year saying no to myself whenever I've been standing in bookshops, and I deserve to be rewarded with the freedom to buy some books. But at the same time, I really want to be more purposeful. I don't want to buy impulsively in unreasonable quantities over and over, and then just have books crowding my shelves that just sit there for years and years. You saw my statistics in my videos. Sometimes it's 10, 15 years books are sitting and they're not getting read. I mean, it just seems stupid to spend money on books that I'm not going to read when I could just wait and spend that same money on a book that I really am ready to read then and there. And I'm not a book collector. Everybody knows, I think by now. It's not my thing. So I don't need to buy a book for the sake of what it is as an object. So on that basis, I've got 2 rules that I'm going to try and live by for the next 14 months. And you guys are going to get a preview of that and see how I go. And here they are, the rules. 1. If I buy a new book, I must commit to reading it and reviewing it within 3 months of the purchase date. Okay? Rule 2. Before I buy, I will check whether a library copy is available and ask myself, why do I need to have my own copy? What are my reasons? I got to justify it somehow. And of course, I must keep to all my other reading targets already stated. That means I can't buy and read so many new books that I can't keep up with my winning titles target, or my targets for reading library books, or my targets for reading big books. It all has to fit into the plan. So a lot more thinking will be involved, and that gives me time when I'm standing in a bookshop. I've got to do more than just browse and start pulling books off shelves. And what I believe this will do in practice is probably limit book purchases to maybe a book a month, or so 14 books over 14 months. Given the speed that I read, I just think that's sensible. There will be, however, one exception. There always needs to be at least one exception to any rule, and a lot of rules really. There should be more, but that's another subject, okay? But my one exception, during the first week of November, that week where I have asked BookTube, please would you grant me a little break, I am exempt from all rules, okay? I have an amnesty, if you like. I can buy whatever I want. And you might be thinking, hey, hang on. You could buy like 100 books in that week, and wouldn't that really be cheating? Wouldn't that not be in the spirit of this whole exercise? Well, I don't believe that's going to happen. I can't explain that right now. What I will do when I come back in the second week of October is you'll very likely get a book haul video. Now, that's a very rare thing to happen on this channel, to talk about what I bought, but also why I really had no fear that I was going to go crazy. So that's it, BookTube. That is the plan. Now, I think it's got a really nice balance between the idealistic and the pragmatic, but there's work left to do before we can get to that magic amnesty break week. Yeah, I need to go away and finish Rosamund Bartlett's biography of Tolstoy. You're going to get part 2 of the vlog coming up this weekend. And I'm wishing everybody all the best for any goals that you've set yourself. Although I think this is a really good place to say, by the way, goals are not mandatory, right? If you are just letting the reading thing happen however it happens, then more power to you, okay? I'll see you all in a few days, BookTube. You take care. Bye-bye.